Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round number 3 of the Excite Virtual Motorsports Formula Masters. Tonight on the very well-known Austrian racetrack Red Bull Ring. My name is Sebastian Gerhardt, and I will be your host tonight for another 30-lap race for our by now well-known drivers of the Formula Masters. And there is the championship leader in our picture. It's Darren Boulton, currently third fastest time in the practice. Still about 4 minutes to go till we go to the qualifying, and that's enough time for us to take a look on the standings board. So Boulton in the lead because of 2 second places in the first 2 races in the championship, so 90 points for him. Gavin Utley on second with 78 points, then just 2 points behind him Neil McMath. Steve Proudley, after his victory in Blackwood, it's 70 points for him in 4th position. 5 points behind him Mark Heyman. Derek Rupp in 6th with 58 points. Then it's 60 points down to Daryl Seawright. Mark Harris in 8th with 50 points, just 1 point ahead of Chris Bourne. Then Mike Tanti, who completes the top 10 with 46 points. Then it's down to 7 points behind him Matt Powney, followed by Chris Wilson, Martin Ash, Andrew Banfield, John Dowling, Kieran Mallock, Rick Fowler, John McConville, and Nick Curry. Currently completing the drivers that finished at least one of the 2 races. The calendar showed that it should be Sonoma tonight, but maybe you listened to the last few minutes of the last stream, because Mike Tanti informed me that the Sonoma, which is an add-on track for Assetto Corsa, the simulation used tonight, and the track has some issues that cause too much problems, so there won't be a chance to have some proper racing there. So we switched to the Red Bull Ring, which is original content of Assetto Corsa. I'm not sure which DLC it is actually where you get it, but no problems with this track, hopefully. So the only problem for the drivers are their capabilities in their cars. Free setup, so they can do and change whatever they want. And I think they might have lowered their wings in front and the back of the car to get as much top speed as possible, because Red Bull Ring is a very, very fast track. Several long straights where you reach very high speeds, and of course you can use the slipstream of the driver in front of you. Back with our live picture. Dan Boulton still in 3rd, and Neil McMath just 6 thousandths of a second behind Mark Heyman. So Heyman currently in 5th in the championship, setting a very, very interesting time. I heard some of the guys saying there might be still a 1:19 possible. I doubt it actually. Maybe in the slipstream, but not if you're just alone on the track. We'll see. Chris Bourne parked his car somewhere else. Stephen Proudley in 11th. Don't know where he was driving, but doesn't look like he's been on the track, because more than a minute behind the time of Mark Heyman. We have to wait until the qualifying starts. We're in the overtime, so just waiting until everyone moves into the pits. There are more drivers on the server, as you can see on the tower on the left of your screen, because as long as you don't set a lap time, you won't be shown on the leaderboard on the left side. Chris Wilson just up into 10th position. And I think it was Andrew Banfield who just joined the server. So there will be definitely more drivers than just the 12 guys we see in this overlook. And now let's take a look who is actually here tonight. So 14 drivers, excluding me. I'm using the TV car, so to speak. Still some guys missing. Darius Seabright, John McConville, Mark Harris, Rick Fowler, Nick Curry. Actually drivers that we used to see in the past and in the last 2 races, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully they will join the server and the race, of course, as well. 50 minutes qualifying. And then a 30 lap race. Only 1 race, mandatory pit stop. And they have to choose 2 different sets of tires. Oh, and the engines are roaring because almost everyone is starting to leave the pits. Not everyone, half of the field. And Andrew Banfield, who joined the server very late, now leaving the pits. Behind him, the car of John Dowling. Joined Excite Virtual Motorsports just shortly before the Formula Masters. Finished in 12th in the last race on Blackwood GP. Tough track to start your first race in this championship. And there were several drivers with some problems. Sadly, Mark Heyman and Nick Curry didn't finish at all. We're still waiting for Nick Curry joining the server. Mark Heyman with one of the fastest laps in the practice. He wants to get back up in the championship. And let's take a look on this very, very interesting track here on the Red Bull Ring. Coming up the hill into the 90 degrees right-hander, the Castrol Edge corner, and he's already spinning out. I think we will see a lot of drivers doing this mistake, and John Dowling moving back into the pits. So now I have to try to find someone else, and that's Mike Tanti. So Castro Edge corner, very close to the curb on the inside, almost jumping over this anti-cut. That's the small yellow bump, even closer to the inside of the turn. Coming up to the Ramos corner, very tough hairpin because it's like you're coming over a little crest, so the rear of the car starts to get loose and you maybe lose the car when starting to accelerate. Out of the corner, downhill to the Schlossgold corner. A very, very long right-hander early on the gas. And then it's full speed to the next left-hander, which slightly hangs to the outside, so it's always very difficult, and you maybe slide out of the corner into the gravel. We're already coming up to the Rindt corner. 90 degrees right-hander, very, very fast corner. 4th gear, and then the Red Bull Mobile corner, final turn to the right. Sometimes races are decided in this final corner. Mike Tanti, his first lap time, 5th position, 1:23.688. So that's way behind Mark Heyman, but even Mark Heyman now 6 1/10 of a second behind his best lap in the practice session. Oh, Darren Booten spun out. And Kieran Mullock also somewhere alongside the track. Here he is. Missed the braking point of the Remus corner. And now he's waiting for a free spot because of the other drivers. You won't join the track and destroy someone else's hot lap in the qualifying. In front of him, Chris Wilson, currently in 6th position. But still some other drivers not shown on the left side, but they are on the server. Kieran Mullock, Derek Robb, who is almost driving the same livery as Mike Tanti, but Mike Tanti has his virtual driver has a red helmet, Derek Robb with the blue helmet, and of course you can see the name in this slightly changed Martini logo. Very nice paint job in my opinion. Fits the car very, very well. Let's just see if Derek Robb can set a good lap time. Oh, I think that's gonna be a 1:23 or maybe even 1:24. Well, 1:24.101. So he is in 9th position ahead of Kieran Mullock and almost losing the car outside of the first corner. John Dowling in front of him. He is in 5th position. Mark Heyman in the pits, so maybe a chance for Steve Proudley. To grab the pole. I don't think Mark Heyman will just leave it to that. I think he will rejoin on the track and try to set a better lap time, because Darren Booten now very quick as well. And Neil McMath is the new pole setter in the qualifying here on the Red Bull Ring. 1:20.924, and that's just about 1/10 of a second behind the fastest lap of Mark Heyman in the practice. Still Heyman in the pits. Andrew Banfield in 5th. For some reason just dropped out of the leaderboard on the left side for a few seconds. Matt Powney in 5th. John Dowling 6th now, and then it's Chris Bourne, Chris Wilson, Mike Tanti, Derek Robb and Kieran Mullock, but still missing some of the other drivers. So there's Darren Booten. There's Chris Bourne. This is my car, John Dowling. Martin Ash still in the pits with the yellow and green car, and there's the pole sitter Neil McMath, about half a second quicker than Mark Heyman, but Mark Heyman is out on the track as well, trying to retake the pole. As you know, I'm always taking a look into the YouTube chat, so if there is anything you want to know about the Formula Masters, or you want to know about Exile Virtual Motorsports, or if there's anything, or if there's something wrong with the sound or any other technical issues, just let me know. And with trouble in the sound, I don't mean my spelling of the English language. Oh, and Darren Booton now in front of Mark Heyman. He takes second position, but just 47 thousandths of a second quicker than Mark Heyman. So this is still not decided. Mark Heyman still has a chance to maybe get in the first row of the starting grid or even retake the pole. Oh, but that's a bad spot to make a mistake out of the final corner, because you lose momentum out of down to the start-finish straight, or maybe especially up the hill to the Castrol Edge corner. So this even sliding of him on the curb might cost him a tenth of a second. Now we already have some fans in the YouTube chat cheering for Darren Booton. Mark Heyman retakes second position from Darren Booton. And Steve Proudly also very, very quick. Then there's a big gap over more than half a second to Matt Powney in fifth. Gavin Utley close behind him in sixth. Then 0.3 of a second to John Dowling. 0.2 of a second to Chris Bourne, who is in the pits now. Andrew Banfield in fifth, but sometimes he drops out of the list. Don't know why. Might be a slight bug or maybe some connection issues for Andrew Banfield. So now let's see if Steve Proudly can still improve his lap time. There's no success weight in the cars, so they are all on the same level. It's just down to the setup the guys worked out for their cars, and Steve Proudly takes third position. So Darren Booton down to fourth, but just 14 thousandths of a second behind Proudly now. So very, very close in the first few rows in the grid. Just 3.5 minutes to go. McMath with the 1:29.24 still on pole position. So let's see if Mark Heyman finds another few tenths of a second to catch McMath. Through the Rind corner. And the final right-hander, Red Bull Mobile. Still in second. Mark Heyman got another few hundredths of a second, but it wasn't enough to catch McMath. And now he parked his car, so Heyman, no more chances for him to get another pole, or maybe if he's lucky he might get a chance to set another lap time, but maybe also the server could switch to the race session right before he might finish his final lap. Steve Proudly in third ahead of Darren Booton. The man in the gold and black car currently out of the Schlossgold corner. Behind the car of Matt Powney, if I'm not mistaken, who's in sixth. Darren Booton parked his car, so no more improvements for him. Heyman and Proudly still out on the track, as well as Banfield and Powney. Now Proudly parked his car in the pits as well. So we're coming up for the last few changes that might happen in this qualifying run. Banfield off track as well as Martin Ash. So no more improvements here. Boulton in the pits, proudly in the pits. Let's take a look at Chris Bourne. Taking the curb quite rough. But he stays in 9th position, so no difference after his final timed lap. This should be it. Gavin Utley still going. And that's been it. So no more changes in the last few minutes of the qualifying. Neil McMath will lead the race, pole position after just 3 timed laps. Mark Heyman in 2nd, Steve Broadley starting from 3rd, Darren Boulton 4th, then it's Andrew Banfield from 5th, Matt Powney 6th, Gavin Utley from 7th, John Dowling 8th, Chris Bourne 9th, Chris Wilson 10th, Derek Robb from 11th, Mike Tanti 12th, Kieran Mullock 13th, and Martin Ash from 14th. And hopefully my car will stay in the pits. There's still some wait time counting down, so we have to wait until the drivers will be on the track. Here we go. And it's actually just 1 minute for these guys until the race already starts. Oh, sorry for that flashing pictures. And I think there's someone missing on the right side just in front of our TV car. The lights are on, and when they're off, we are racing here tonight on the Red Bull Ring, Exile Virtual Motorsports Formula Masters, and there has been a slight jump start by John Dowling, so this might cause him problems right in at the start of the race. Neil McMath in the lead ahead of Mark Heyman, Steve Proudly in 3rd in front of Andrew Banfield. Then it's Darren Boulton who dropped down to 5th, Matt Powney 6th, Utley 7th, Chris Bourne gets the position, and John Dowling down to last position because he obviously got a jump start and probably a penalty by the simulation, so he might have to do a stop and go penalty. The attack by Mark Heyman down to the Schlossgold corner, fighting for the lead already in the first lap. Oh, there's McMath going very wide, but now he's on the inside for the next 2 left-handers. So Mark Heyman, almost touching, and Heyman has to slow down, prevent his car from sliding out of the corner. Stays in 2nd in front of Proudly. Darren Boulton takes back 4th position from Andrew Banfield. Chased by Matt Powney, Gavin Utley, and the purple and green car, or pink and green car, that's Chris Bourne in 8th. While Chris Wilson takes 10th position from Mike Tanti. but that's a bit more behind the rest of the field. And what's wrong with Mike Tanti? He's slowing down. Martin Ash also taking a position from Tanti. Chris Wilson now in front, and Derek Robb as well. Oh, and Martin Ash with the mistake. We saw that in the qualifying, and we saw that from Derek Robb in the practice when he showed us the track. Now McMath loses the lead against Mark Heyman. So this was probably an attack out of the slipstream in the Remus corner. Now McMath hard on the brakes. And there is Steve Proudly, the winner of the race in Blackwood. He is chasing these two guys who were a lot quicker in the qualifying run. Now Proudly chasing these two. Whoa, and Neil McMath in trouble. Getting a bit nervous in the first few laps. Proudly in the slipstream, but that won't work down to the wind corner. Now trying to hit the exit as best as possible. But Neil McMath also gets a slipstream by Mark Heyman, so there isn't much of a chance for Steve Proudly to set an attack against McMath. Or late on the brakes into the Castrol Edge corner, and the car is getting very loose on the rear. We saw Martin Ash spinning out at the same spot 1 lap ago. Booten 1 second almost behind Steve Proudly already, but in 4th, always trying to collect some points. Now Proudly is losing a little bit of time to the first two guys, Mark Heyman and Neil McMath. So I wonder what Neil McMath will do now. Maybe trying to stay at the back of Mark Heyman and like working a bit together. I mean, it's a long race, 30 laps, more than half an hour of racing tonight here on the Red Bull Ring. So maybe avoiding an attack and just trying to get away from the rest of the field might be a better idea than just attacking all the time. Matt Powney dropping down to 9th position, so might there be already a pit stop? No. Powney obviously must have done some sort of mistake. Probably getting too wide out of the wind corner. We don't have a chance to get a replay here in the simulation of Assetto Corsa. There's no support for replay, so it's just guessing. And what you see is what you get, so no chance for us to rewatch something we might have missed, sadly. Neil McMath losing time against Mark Heyman, whilst Darren Booten is increasing the pressure against Steve Proudly. So 2 laps ago, Proudly was trying to attack Neil McMath, sorry, mixing up Mark Heyman and Neil McMath. Now it's Darren Booten behind Proudly. Oh, and who's spinning out there? That's Neil McMath. Neil McMath spinning out of the Rind corner. Oh, almost crashing into Chris Wilson, who still takes the final corner very close to the inside, even though there was the car of Neil McMath. I don't think there was some sort of crash between him and Mark Heyman. Mark Heyman was too far away from him. So just a personal mistake. So there's a question, what tires are they all on? That's a very interesting question. We not exactly know, but I can find out at least a bit. So let's see. They all seem to be out on softs, mediums or super soft. So Martin Ash is on super soft while Derek Robb is on medium, so that's interesting. Banfield on medium, the first three guys on soft. Then it's Chris Boulton on soft, Utley on soft, Derek Robb on medium, and Martin Ash trying something entirely different, driving on super soft. And I almost think that Martin Ash probably made a mistake and didn't load his racing setup and instead loaded his qualifying setup, because I don't think those super soft tires will hold on for enough time. Matt Powney first was in trouble, then he parked his car alongside the track and now he's out of the race. So Matt Powney already out of the race. Looks a bit like a disconnect because we still have a camera view on the spot where he stopped his car. Chris Wilson dropping behind Neil McMath. Not that much of a surprise. But I don't think Neil McMath will have a chance to get back up to a podium position on his own. Kevin Utley with some problems breaking into the Schlossgold corner. We saw some smoke there on the outside. Chris Bourne in fifth. Which is actually a very good position because he started from 9th. So already moved up by 4 places in the race, and there are only 7 laps of 30 done so far. Mark Heyman in the lead now without any problems, 1.6 seconds ahead of Steve Proudley because of the spin of Neil McMath. Chris Bourne in the slipstream of Andrew Banfield, who's also doing very well on 4th position in the black and red car. Out of the Ramos corner. Accelerating hard down to the Schlossgold corner. This downhill right-hander, Chris Bourne, out of the slipstream, maybe checking his braking spot. Playing it safe for avoiding a crash with Andrew Banfield. Looks like he still doesn't know his braking spots, so driving a bit more careful. I think one of the interesting things of these cars is that there's actually a braking light, which is actually not so usual in Formula cars, or open wheeler as we used to say. Darren Booten taking 2nd position. Well, I didn't expect that, especially out of the Castrol Edge corner. So Darren Booten now in 2nd and closing in to Mark Heyman. So there must have been a slight mistake by Mark Heyman. Darren Booten closing in, while Mike Tanti made some sort of mistake further back in the field, or locking up the front right tire by Darren Booten, breaking into the Schlossgold corner again. I think by now you start realizing that these corners are showing up very often because this track is not that short actually, but because it's a very high speed track, the lap times are rather low. .381 kilometers long, or 2.68 miles. And that's a very interesting pack. The first 3 guys in the race close to each other. So that means we will have some fights hopefully for the podium. And of course there will be the pit stops. And there's always room for trouble if you start refueling your car, especially changing the tires. Neil McMath taking 5th position from Chris Bourne. So the man in the grey car trying to get further up in the field. But he's way behind the first 3 drivers. More than 10 seconds behind. And because he locked his brakes on the Schlossgold corner, Chris Boulton is still close behind him, chased by Gavin Utley in 7th. But now it should be Andrew Banfield who's next on the menu of Neil McMath. He's hungry for places. Oh, and Andrew Banfield in the pits, avoiding the fight between him and Neil McMath by doing his mandatory pit stop quite early. So let's see on what tires he actually was. So now we see, I think he was on medium. No, he was on soft, and well, that's Derek Rupp. We will see the tire compound when he leaves the pits. No, now he's on soft, so I was right. He was on medium at the start, and now he's on soft tires. It might sound a bit weird if you see that we have 10 laps done by now and you use the medium tires, and now it's 20 laps to go and use the soft tires. Usually you would think that the soft tires of course would deteriorate a lot faster, but they get into a better temperature, and so the grip is better, you are faster, and in the end you are faster all over the 20 laps than driving with the medium tires. That might stand a 30 lap race, but because of the mandatory pit stop you can just cover the laps. That would be too much for the soft tires with the medium tires, and then you switch to soft, which are the best compound for most of the races. We saw that in Blackwood as well. Some of the drivers used medium tires and they were quite slow at the end of the race. And that's what might get these guys into problems, because Heyman is on soft, Darren Boulton on soft tires, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take another look. Boulton on soft, Proudly on soft, Chris Bourne on soft. There's still someone on mediums, that's Derek Rupp. He tries to stay out as long as possible. And still Martin Ash in 9th on super soft. That's very interesting. So almost everyone on soft tires now. Banfield changed from medium to soft. He's currently in 11th. And most of the other drivers will have to switch to the medium tires in about 8 to 10 laps. And then their lap times might be slower than in the first 2/3 of the race. Probably a chance for Banfield then to attack these guys, or at least some of the drivers in front of him. He's 1.5 seconds behind John Dowling, who had to do a penalty stop because of his jump start. Oh man, Dowling in a fight with Martin Ash. No, not in a fight. Martin Ash also in the pits. And he was running on super softs. So I think he will switch to soft tires now to finish the race in a bit longer second stint. I got an information from the from Matt Powney in the YouTube chat. He had some freezes during the race, so his screen freezed 3 to 5 seconds, which means he just saw a standing picture on his screen while his car was still going. So just a very fair decision by Matt Powney to stop his race, but of course very sad situation. The winner of the Formula 3 championship, which took place just a few months ago. No luck in the Formula Masters currently, or so far. In 11th place in the championship, and he might lose this place after getting almost no points in this third round of the Exile Virtual Motorsports Formula Masters on the Red Bull Ring. Derek Robb in the pits now, changing from medium tires to soft. That's at least what I expect. I saw in the chat that it looks like the crowd is getting wide for Martin Ash in the pits. I'm not so sure if the virtual crowd is getting crazy. They're not moving too much. And still Darren Bouton chasing Mark Heyman for the lead. If Darren Bouton would finish in second place in this race, it would be his third second place in the championship. And because of his very constant results, he might stay in the lead in the championship. But that's just, it's still some guesswork because we are only half into this race. Steve Proudly, no chance for him to follow the first two drivers after Darren Bouton took second position from him. He lost some time. Now he's about 4 seconds behind Bouton, but 15 seconds ahead of Chris Bourne. While Neil McMath dropped down to 7th again. So I don't know what actually happened to Neil McMath. While we were talking about some of the tire issues of the drivers. There's some fighting going on. John Dowling behind Andrew Banfield, fighting for 8th position. Dowling in the green car, and then it's Andrew Banfield in the black and red car, and they are 13 seconds behind Neil McMath. Who might lose his third position in the championship if he just finishes in 6th. But Chris Wilson in the pits. So it's interesting that some of the drivers are actually pitting in right at the halftime of this race. John Dowling with a mistake in the final corner. Spun out on the curb and lost, not really lost the position against Andrew Banfield. He just lost about 10 seconds to Andrew Banfield. Takes 8th position from Chris Wilson, who's leaving the pits just right now. And there's Derek Robb, who already was in the pits. Let's see if Derek Robb can catch Chris Wilson. Doesn't look like it. No, Chris Wilson is about 5 seconds ahead. Then there's Mike Tanti and Martin Ash, after changing from super soft to soft, dropped down to 12th position. And behind him you can already see Mark Heyman and Darren Bouton. And Darren Bouton passes Mark Heyman in the Castrol Edge corner, but a better exit for Mark Heyman. So it's a drag race up to the Remus corner between Darren Bouton and Mark Heyman. And it looks like Mark Heyman is a bit faster on the straight, but Darren Bouton late on the brakes, outbrakes himself, sliding to the outside of the Remus corner, and Mark Heyman is back in the lead. But now Darren Bouton he really wants to take this lead and maybe tries to take his first victory in the championship. He seems to be faster, especially in the corners and on the brakes. Well, Mark Heyman might be a little bit faster on the straight because he might have lowered his rear and front wing. Which of course reduces the drag and gets the car faster on the straight, but you also get more trouble with the aerodynamics in the fast corners. But that's all done by now because Mark Heyman in the pits. Darren Boulton takes the lead. Now ahead of Heyman, and now Proudly, because Proudly passes Heyman, and now let's see if Chris Bourne will come into the pits as well, or if he will stay out in 4th position. Mark Heyman, oh, he's changing his position on the track, and there is trouble in the pits for Mark Heyman. Getting into reverse to get his tires changed in reverse again, so there are some problems for Mark Heyman. Looks like his pit crew isn't working. In the pits way too long, so that might be the decision of the race. Chance for Darren Boulton to now easily take the lead, but he has to go into the pits as well. Still out on the track, and there might happen the same issues to Darren Boulton. You never know. Heyman now out of the pits, but dropped down to 8th position behind John Dowling and Andrew Banfield. There's even Derek Robb, who was also in the pits, right behind him. And maybe Mark Heyman even has to go into the pits again. But now let's see how this works out for Darren Boulton, who is in the lead in this race. No reversing by Darren Boulton. Chris Bourne still out on the track, as well as Gavin Utley. That was a pretty good pit stop by Darren Boulton, leaving the pits on 4th position in front of Neil McMath, and quite close to Gavin Utley actually. Proudly, Bourne and Utley still need to go into the pits. Neil McMath 4 seconds behind, and McMath I think has to go into the pits as well. Andrew Banfield, he was in already in 6th, while Derek Robb took 7th position from Mark Heyman. John Dowling had a mistake and dropped behind Chris Wilson down to 10th, and I was right, Mark Heyman in the pits again, so there was no tire change. He had to cancel his pit stop. Looks like it's working out this time. John Dowling in the pits now. Sorry for that strange camera movement. Looks like some slight connection issues for Mark Heyman, but just slightly. Now that looked like a proper pit stop for Mark Heyman. Back on track on 11th position, so a disaster for Mark Heyman. Steve Proudly in the pits. There's Darren Boulton. Chris Bourne, Gavin Utley still staying out on the track. Neil McMath now up to 4th position. Proudly in 5th. Gavin Utley chasing Chris Bourne. Not sure which position this might be after the pit stop. I think they were fighting for 5th or 6th position before all that pitting started. A question in the chat again. Can they do more than one stop? Of course they can stop as often as they want to, but they have to at least one time. So it's one mandatory pit stop. If you want to go into the pits after each lap, you can do that, but I don't think you will win anything. You might get some golden flower pot, but no golden prize for doing stuff like that. And yes, definitely poor Mark. I wonder what actually happened in the pits, with what went wrong. Must have been some software issue, or maybe he missed his pit markers, and when he got into reverse, his pit crew just didn't work. There's some of the issues that might happen in some of those simulation in the pits. So I guess this caused all those problems for Mark Heyman. Maybe still a chance for him to get into the top 10 at least. Still 10 laps to go. And these two guys still have to go into the pits. Chris Bourne in the lead ahead of Gavin Utley. And it doesn't look like Gavin Utley finds his way closer to Chris Bourne. No chance of attacking for the man in this black car. Mike Tanti in the pits. So this will get Mark Heyman his top 10 position. Gavin Utley in this very interesting all carbon fiber looking car. No, and Tanti still in the pits, so John Dowling also takes the position from him. Tanti now in the last position of the still racing drivers. Matt Powney, we saw that because of technical issues, quit the race early on. I wonder how long Chris Bourne and Gavin Utley will stay out. I hope they didn't forget about the mandatory pit stop. A bit late on the brakes here by Gavin Utley in the Schlossgold corner. You can already see that on the timetable on the left side, that it's now more than a second between him and Chris Bourne, and there's Andrew Banfield in trouble. Every time the initials on the left are shown in yellow, that means the car is standing or rolling very slow on the track, and it looks like Andrew Banfield spun out or was very slow outside of the Remus corner. And he just has to look on the timetable, looking back to Derek Robb. He's 14 seconds in front of Robb and more than 20 seconds behind Steve Proudy, so not much to do for Andrew Banfield currently than just driving lap after lap. Mark Heyman now in front of Martin Ash. Almost in front, so to speak, coming down to the Schlossgold corner. Mark Heyman early on the brakes, but he takes 9th position from Martin Ash in the yellow and green car. Darren Boulton is closing in very fast to Chris Bourne and Gavin Utley. And Neil McMath also closing into Darren Boulton. So this might be the proper fight for the lead, because Chris Bourne and Gavin Utley still have to go into the pits. Darren Boulton chased by Neil McMath. So still not clear if Boulton might be able to take a victory here on the Red Bull Ring. But even if he gets in, finishes second, he will stay in the lead of the championship. But of course, Neil McMath will be closing in. No, he won't. I wasn't sure if Neil McMath still has to go in the pits. Now it's clear. McMath also in the pits behind Chris Bourne, and that means Darren Boulton will stay in the lead very easily. He's now behind Gavin Utley, who also has to go into the pits, and let's see when Proudly might exit the pit lane. There he is. Oh, and very close behind him, Neil McMath, and then there's Chris Bourne. So these three drivers very close to each other, and we're talking about a podium position. Steve Proudly trying to get away from Neil McMath and Chris Bourne. Darren Booten takes the lead from Gavin Utley out of the Schlossgold corner. And I think Gavin Utley will go into the pits now. I don't think he will stay out much longer. Booten more than 22 seconds in front of Steve Proudly. And again, it's his consistency in the races. We saw that in the first race in Mugello. We saw it in the second race on Blackwood GP. Trying to avoid any trouble. He had a spin in Blackwood, but that still didn't stop him from finishing second. And it looks like now he is starting to win races. Still 6 laps to go. Let's take a look. On third position, Steve Proudly, chased by Neil McMath. And we saw Neil McMath going a lot faster behind Darren Boulton right before his pit stop. But I think it comes down to the tire compound, and now most of them are driving on mediums, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just take a short look. Yeah. So here we see Gavin Utley still on soft tires. He tries to stay out as long as possible because the soft tires are working better than the medium tires. There's also the issue that, or the fact that the car gets lighter because of the fuel consumption, of course. So it stays in some sort of balance between the tires getting worse and worse while the car is getting lighter. So you still have enough grip, you have enough speed. So you're always staying on the same lap times for a long time, even though the tires are not that good anymore. And that's what Steve Proudly is trying to do, to stay out as long as possible, setting faster lap times than the other drivers that were in front of him, like Chris Bourne, and then just changing on the medium tires in the last moment. 25 laps now for Steve Proudly, while Neil McMath is on medium tires. There's Chris Bourne right in the back of Steve Proudly. I don't think this will work out. The pit stop is way, or the pit lane is way too long to stay close to Chris Bourne in 5th. He's about 3 seconds ahead of Andrew Banfield. Martin Ash and John Dowling actually fighting a bit for the top 10 position, the final top 10 position. Now there's the move by Neil McMath, attacking Steve Proudly on the inside into the Schlossgold corner. Oh, and Neil McMath losing the car almost, and Proudly takes back 3rd position from McMath, avoiding a spin, but he lost a lot of momentum out of the corner, so Proudly back in 3rd. But he has to defend this 3rd position for the next 5 laps. That's one tough job to do, because Neil McMath already trying to move on the inside line into the Rindt corner. No, staying back, and there's Mike Tanti now in front of them. They have to pass him. He's 1 lap down, but Tanti, of course, does see what's going on, slowing down on the start-finish straight, and now behind Neil McMath. Maybe trying to copy the racing line of this very, very fast driver. Gavin Utley still out on the track, still no pit stop by Utley. Maybe he's depending on this fight between Proudly and McMath. Mike Tanti with problems again. Let's see what Neil McMath is doing. Does he find a way past Steve Proudly? Dan Button, a 123. Definitely his fastest lap time, a 124. And let's see what times Proudly and McMath can show us. Proudly a 122.683 and McMath 122.872. That means Proudly was 0.2 of a second faster in the last lap. But they are doing 123, 122 laps, and that's a lot slower than with the soft tires in the first stint. And that's what I meant talking about the performance of Gavin Utley in second. He still has 2 laps to go until he definitely has to pit. You can't go into the pits just right before the start-finish line. That doesn't work. Tanti in the pits now. And it doesn't look like he wants to leave them again before the end of the race. Gavin Utley in the pits. And that might mean he will drop out of the top 3. I'm pretty sure about it, actually. Utley still standing in the pits. Here's Steve Proudly and Neil McMath passing Utley in the pits. And then there's Chris Bourne. Let's see if Chris Bourne can also pass Utley, because he's already exiting the pits. Then that might be a fight for 4th position. Gavin Utley accelerating out of the pits. Chris Bourne in front of him. There's also Andrew Banfield. And now Utley in 6th behind the 2 of these drivers. But Banfield already defending, moving up to the Remus corner. Gavin Utley on very cold medium tires now. Banfield with a slight mistake, but Utley also early on the brakes, trying to avoid any sort of mistakes. And that gets Utley still back in 6th position. Neil McMath passes Steve Proudly now in the Schlossgold corner. This time it worked out for McMath. Proudly back in 3rd, but he is looking for a decent podium position. After his victory in Blackwood, I think he might be quite satisfied with this result. And still he's in the slipstream of Neil McMath, so this isn't over yet. Probably into the Castrol Edge corner, just staying behind. I think he might wait until he can attack Neil McMath coming up, or coming down to the Schlossgold corner. But he's already alongside McMath, coming up to the Remus corner, and Steve Proudly on the brakes passes Neil McMath. But now maybe McMath can set or get in the slipstream of Proudly, and we had a slight mistake out of the Remus corner, but now on the brakes on the inside. No, Neil McMath stays behind Proudly. And just another lap after this one to go, and then we are done with this race. So this is still not over. Proudly back in 2nd ahead of Neil McMath. But he's scratching the gearbox of that black car of Steve Proudly. Again into the wind corner. But Proudly is quick enough before the braking spot to avoid that Neil McMath can actually move to the inside line into a corner. Derek Rupp in trouble, but stays in 7th position because he's way ahead of Chris Wilson, who's in 8th. And now it's on. It's the final lap of this race on the Red Bull Ring. Neil McMath out of the slipstream on the outside line, coming up to the Remus corner. Then there's Steve Proudly braking on the inside. He took the second position from Neil McMath in this corner, and it did work out again. Neil McMath with a mistake way outside on the curb and over the curb, even getting into the grass. And that might be it. That might be the decision of the race for Steve Proudly and Neil McMath. A bit too quick, a bit too early on the throttle by Neil McMath. Didn't take the corner properly, and that cost him almost a second against Steve Proudly. Darren Boulton takes his first victory in the Formula Masters after 2 second places in the first 2 races. Now the first win for Darren Boulton, and that means he will get further away from the rest of the field in the championship. Steve Proudly profiting from this slight mistake of Neil McMath in the final lap, taking second position. Neil McMath in third. Then it's Chris Bourne in fourth, chased by Gavin Utley, but this sort of pit stop trick by Gavin Utley didn't work out as expected. He finishes the race in fifth. Then it's Andrew Banfield in sixth position, coming down to the final corner. And the man in the black and red car now over the line. Then it's Derek Robb. Seventh position. John Dowling already finished the race in 10th. Martin Ash in 11th. Mike Tenty didn't leave the pits since his stop. And there's Chris Wilson in 8th, in front of a very frustrated Mark Heyman, who had some bad issues with his pit stop, and that cost him maybe even a victory here on the Red Bull Ring. Darren Boulton, the very solid performance again, wins his first race here in the Formula 3, in the Formula Masters. I'm sorry, the last season was the Formula 3 Championship. This time it's the Formula Masters. Mark Heyman is still doing donuts for unknown reasons. Looks like Darren Boulton is more silently enjoying this result. Congratulations. We will take a short break and then hopefully find someone for an interview. I hope Darren Boulton might tell us something about his race. So I hope you stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. So here we are. Wondering hopefully about the black screen on the right. We didn't have a flyer for this race. I think there was not enough time for the administration to create a new poster for us. So we just see the calendar on the left, but more important, Darren Bouton is with me in the commentary booth after this first victory. Congratulations, Darren. 2 second positions in the first 2 races, which got you the championship lead, and now a victory for you here on the Red Bull Ring. Are you a bit surprised about this position? It looked like you were counting on a podium position, but actually getting a victory.
Well, first of all, thank you. And I was on a lap that was good enough for pole on quali, and I got impeded on the last corner. So I knew I got a bit of pace in me, but it was just a case of sitting there and see what happened. It was good though. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, of course, Mark Heyman was very quick, got unlucky in on his pit stop. He had to do another pit stop because it looked like the tires weren't changed or something like that. So he was out of the way. Then there was Neil McMath, who was in trouble for some time. And then it was an easy win in the end. How hard was it for you after the pit stop and after realizing there won't be anyone getting close to you to stay concentrated for the rest of the race?
Yeah, Mark got very unlucky with his pit stop. He had some technical issues, and it was shaping up to be a really good battle after the pits. But I just had to keep it clean and try not to get any uh, corner cutting on turn 1 and 2, really, and on the last corner.
Yeah, it did work out for you. So already my final question, because I want to give you some more time after that to enjoy and maybe celebrate that victory. Next race on 1st December will be in Donington. So classic British track. I think that's nothing new for you. What are your expectations?
I do like Donington. It's actually my local track anyway. So it should be good there. Always has some good racing, nice and fast and flowy, so it should be good.
Okay,
Hopefully,
so
we'll get on the podium.
so looking for increasing your lead in the championship.
Yeah, that would be nice. That is for sure.
Okay, so good luck with that in 2 weeks, and again, congratulations for your victory tonight here on the Red Bull Ring, Darren Bouton, and
Thanks,
thank
Ed.
thank you for the interview. And we are getting close to the end of our broadcast tonight. There's an important information. I won't be there on 1st December, so no broadcasting by me. I won't be able to host this race because I'm just not at home. So it's a tough job for me to commentate somewhere else on. It's actually a Christmas party on 1st December, a bit early, but it's from my work. So and sometimes real life is more important, in my opinion. I hope you agree with that. I would try to find a replacement. So maybe there's a chance there will be a broadcast by someone else. I have someone in mind who is pretty good at in English broadcasting, and I think he might be interested doing something like this, but it's 1st December, it's a Friday, so it's not always that easy to find someone. Stay tuned. I think Mike Tanti might inform everyone how it's going on. Maybe I will set a Facebook post, and talking about Facebook, maybe you can look for Excite Virtual Motorsports as well. Check the, of course, the web page of excitevirtualmotorsports.co.uk. And I almost forgot, there are 2 things to announce. First of all, there's a fun event coming up on R Factor 2. This will start on 19th November, so this is in 2 days on Sunday. 60-minute race, 30-minute qualifying with some endurance cars on Le Mans. So if you're interested, as you can see, just turn up and have fun. So that's easy to go. No testing or getting any license or to show your abilities to someone else. Just if you're interested in racing Le Mans for 60 minutes in Le Mans, it will be on at 8:30 p.m. British time. If you're watching from Germany, It's of course 1 hour later. It's 9:30 p.m. And there's something else coming up also on R Factor 2, because Exile Virtual Motorsports is planning a Renault Clio Cup, and the first test round will be held on the Brands Hatch GP track on November 26th, as you can see on the right of top on the flyer. As you can see, 2 15-minute races, 15-minute qualifying. So very short, but I think pretty fun event. 6 races, and the final races, the first 3 races in this year and the next 3 in January. Round 6 then on the Brands Hatch Indy. And I'm not sure if there will be a broadcast. If there is, not by me, but hopefully there will be someone found for doing this, because I think a Clio Cup is always quite exciting. Or you just participate in this championship. Just take a look, or maybe write it down in the chat. And of course, I hope you subscribe and like the broadcast. I would be glad if you enjoyed this. And we're done for tonight. So thanks for watching. Have a good weekend, and bye bye.